Well, what's up, folks? Mark, aka the Flying Health Coach, coming at you. Hope you're all having a wonderful weekend. Happy Sunday night, as always. Um, I'm finding it very comical right now because I'm looking at my apartment and I'm getting like some lighting set up, which maybe I can tell it's a little more brighter right now. But my apartment looks like an 80s porno, like a low budget 80s porno film right now with like random lighting and a camera over there. Um, I'd show you a picture, but it look weird, and I'll do it sometime. But I just find it comical because I'm like really getting into this stuff right now. It just looks funny. So I want to start tonight's video off by posing a question, and I want you to take some time and think about it. I want you to think about what's the first thought that pops in your mind, and the question is, "Wow, that used to be me." Think about it for a second. Wow, that used to be me. Is your initial thought, was it a positive thought or was it a negative thought, right? Did your mind automatically go to a positive or to go to a negative? And you can apply it to you or you can apply it to just somebody else in life, right? But the point of that exercise is when you think of, wow, that used to be me, people can either take that as a positive or negative. What's the positive? Well, positive is you can think of someone that maybe they lost a bunch of weight, got super lean, and were much happier with their physique in their life. Positive is that someone went from living in their parents' basement or living with their parents and then building a business or starting their dream life, their dream career, and now they're living their dream life, right? That's a positive reaction to that. Versus what's the flip side to that? Well, if you think of, wow, that used to be me, you might think of, okay, well, that person went from successful, happy, healthy, now they lost everything, right? Or they went from like super lean and living a great healthy lifestyle to where they put on like 50, 100 pounds and now they're living the subpar life, right? But the point of that, again, the point of that is to, what did your mind go to automatically, right? And I can tell you for sure, just even last year, towards the end of last year for me, when I was really going through a lot of stuff, more stuff than what I gave myself credence for. I didn't even think about it until even the past couple of weeks, right? But I would have thought immediately the negative, right? And that's because just maybe so much negative is happening in your life, and you don't take a time to just step back and look at the positives, right? And your mind just becomes so negative, you think negative right away, and those are the stories you're telling yourself. Which brings me to tonight's video, right? Tonight's video is all about identity shifting / designing your life and building the life you want. And I've said this before. I mean, you guys see my, kind of background here. I'm not at my dream life yet, my apartment, but I'm finally in the business, if you will, of getting the mindset, putting the action forth to build the life I want. So without further ado, let's talk about identity shifting. So to talk about that, I want to start with a couple things from, one primary thing from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. So with my trusty whiteboard here, let's bust out some things. So we got two things, two really poorly drawn circles, if you will. We got outcome-based goals, and we have identity-based goals. In the core, there's your ID, right? I.e., how do you view yourself, right? What is your identity? Now, what is your identity, right? Think about that. How do you view yourself? And be honest, what are the stories you tell yourself? Again, this is that shadow work video I did a while back, right? But what are those deep, those unconscious or subconscious thoughts you have about you? Do you really find yourself as a confident person? Do you find yourself as successful? Do you find yourself as a person that's trying to constantly improve to be successful, right? Or do you constantly have a mindset of, I'm not this because of this. I am not successful because of this reason. I always mess things up. It's those really powerful statements of, I am poor, I am unsuccessful, I am not good looking, I am not confident, right? I always mess things up because of my anxiety. I always mess this up. I always do this, right? That's all negative self-talk that you have, right? Which we had talked about in that shadow work video of, that comes from, a lot of it comes from childhood. A lot of it comes from your previous life experiences that weren't that positive, and now it's forced you to create this persona, this story inside your head. And your persona is just what you're putting out in the universe, right? You know, you could have all this stuff floating inside your mind right now, all this negativity, but you're putting out this fake version of yourself, right? Why? Because you want to fit in. You know, maybe you're trying to impress people. You're trying to live the life that you want to live, but deep inside, you don't have that positive self-talk. You don't have those good storytelling capabilities to eventually get the life you want, but you're going to keep putting this fake personality out there to the people in your life because you want to be a certain way, and you're not being authentic. Which, you know, it's hard for me to see that from people that I do love and care about, where I know that they're awesome people on the inside. I know deep down they're amazing people, but I know they tell themselves these awful stories. I should say awful, that's a tough word, but I know they tell themselves like degrading stories to where they feel like they have to put on this front, this, you know, this persona, and kind of be fake to the world because of the stories they tell themselves, right? So when it comes to identity shifting, when it comes to building your most ideal self, you first have to identify what are those stories, right? What am I telling myself on the inside? And the great thing about your brain is a concept called neuroplasticity. Your brain can adapt, it can grow, it can change. You can break those neural connections in your mind, that ones that are telling you, I'm not good enough, I'm not confident, I'm not sexy, I'm not this, I'm not that, I always mess up, right? You can break those connections. But the only way to do that is you have to start changing that story in your mind, right? So back to the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, right? So we've talked about identity, right? Who you are, what's your self-image, what stories do you tell yourself on the inside, right? So that's kind of step one, though. You have to figure out who you are. Now, where people go wrong, wrong per se, where people maybe don't get the concept correctly, and again, this is my perception on how things work in life. You might argue with that, and that's okay. I'm just presenting my idea. So in the book Atomic Habits, right? Let's move over. Again, we have your outcome-based goals, and we have your identity-based goals, right? More often than not, a lot of people go about life of outcome-based goals, right? Well, what's my outcome? I want to make 10 grand a month extra. I want to be a professional pilot, right? I want to pass this check right, or whatever, right? I want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a hairstylist. List goes on and on and on and on, right? But what it looks like is most, so you got my blue marker. See, Marcus has learned new things, right? Blue on blue. You know, you didn't think it'd be having whiteboards and stuff in videos, did you? But neither here nor there. Point is, most people, right, they go from out here and they work inward. They think that, okay, I have my outcomes here, because this outer thing is, we're going to write outcomes. Outcomes. That says outcomes. So this outer circle, we have your outcomes, right? You know, what am I going to achieve? The inner circle, we're going to call those actions. Excuse me. I know my handwriting is fantastic. So we have outcomes in the outer circle. Inner circle are actions, which is going to lead to a new identity, right? I.e., you know, if I achieve something in my life, if I become good enough, right, by putting a certain action in, I'm going to have a brand new identity finally. I'm finally going to be happy, right? It's so ridiculous. And I've told you guys this hundreds of times on videos. I've coached thousands of people in my life where it's like, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I'm financially free. I'll be happy when I finally pass that check, right? I'll be happy when. But they're never happy right now. And I can tell you for sure, for a fact, when you achieve that goal, that initial outcome goal, you'll be happy in the moment, maybe for a week. But eventually, you're going to find something else to be unhappy of because you never took care of your identity of who you are on the inside. And that's the most important thing, right? So these are your outcome-based goals, right? I need to achieve X outcome via certain action to feel a certain way about myself on the inside, right? Versus now paradigm shift over to identity-based goals, i.e. what James Clear talks about in his book Atomic Habits, fantastic book. If you haven't read it, it's absolutely phenomenal. Let's do the flip side of this. So you have your ID, right? In the next circle, you have your actions. And then the outer circle, you still have your outcomes. So now we're working, instead of going out to in, we're working inward, outward, right? So inward to outward. Why is it more effective over here? Because here we're going to tackle your identity first. You're going to address what stories am I telling myself, right? Why do I feel like I can't accomplish this, right? Why do I not feel confident? Why do I feel like I'm not good enough, right? When you tackle your identity and when you start shifting that identity, right, by asking those questions and journaling about those questions, you can start to gradually change your perception of who you are as a person. But you have to ask yourself those uncomfortable questions, right? Once you change your identity and once you develop a more positive identity about who you are as a person, right, that's going to influence this next circle, your actions. You're going to start acting differently, right? You're going to start doing things differently, which is going to eventually lead to the outcome that you want, right? But you have to start with who you are as a person. Who you are as a person, the stories you tell yourselves are going to influence your actions positively, which eventually are going to get you to your outcome goal, right? And that's another thing to think about too. When you think of an outcome goal, where you want to eventually get to by first changing your ID, well, when you think of your identity, right? A lot of people are stressed about finances, right? And I remember I was talking to someone a while back, and we mentioned I don't care if I'm a millionaire. I just want to be financially free, right? And that's powerful. That really stuck with me a lot, right? It's not about setting a specific number in the outcome goal. It's not about saying, I want to make $10,000 a month. Great goal, but why? Why is that you want to achieve that outcome goal? Well, I want to achieve that because I want to be financially free. That's the real deep-rooted reason, right? That's the real reason. Why do you want to lose 100 pounds? Well, I want to lose 100 pounds because I want to feel sexier to the opposite sex, right? I want to be healthy. I want to be healthy for my kids. I want to live a long life. Those are those deep-rooted reasons that are going to help you also shift your identity as to why do I want to do this? What is my true reason for doing this, right? So focus on identity-based goals, right? You do that by first focusing on who are you? What's your self-image? How do you view the world, right? Do you view the world as a negative or positive? What's your first thought when you think of a question of, wow, that used to be me? Is it negative or positive, right? What inner self-talk do you have? What inner critic do you have? It's not unhealthy to be, harsh critic of yourself sometimes. It's not unhealthy to have bad thoughts. None of that's unhealthy. But what can be unhealthy is not recognizing them, not spending time with them, not journaling about them, but then eventually not shifting them into a positive, right? You got to shift into a positive somehow, right? That's going to help you grow, shift your identity. Again, when you shift your identity, when you think of the person that you want to be and you start to really truly believe that, you're going to start doing different actions, which is going to lead you to your eventual outcome of where you want to be in your life. So that's James Clear, Atomic Habits. Highly recommend it. Look it up. Now, the next thing I want to do for you guys is we're going to write down 3 questions on here, and hope these are motivating. Please write them down and review them daily, weekly, monthly, whatever they might be. They're different than last time, I promise you. So give me 1 second here. And don't look at my awkward side profile. So, here we go. Look at that. Marcus got an eraser now, too. Talk about growth, right? Cheers. So, identity shifting, right? How do you do it, right? Yeah, Mark, it's fun. I can tell myself these positive stories, but what do I do? Let's talk about that. Let's write down question number 1. I'll write it down. I'm going to show you. So question 1. And I'm just going to write down a phrase here. But you can write it down. Actually, you know what? I'll write the question down so you guys can copy it. I know how much you love my videos because I do stuff like this. What is your holy shit life? Okay. Question 1. What's your holy shit life? Right? What is it? Write it down, journal it, or write it down, think about it, whatever you got to do. But what is your holy shit life? At what point in your life do you wake up and you just think of, wow, I did this. I built this. I'm this person now. I have accomplished my goals. What's it look like for you? And be detailed with it, right? Be super detailed with it. And this is part of your identity shifting, and even like when it comes to shadow work, right? What is your let me do that. Now I look like I'm praising people. What's your holy shit life? Okay? We all have it. Your holy shit life might be different than mine, right? Doesn't matter what it is. It's all perception, right? Your holy shit life, I feel weird saying that multiple times. That could simply be, I want a modest house on the lake with a kid or two, a dog, a cat, white picket fence, and just enough money to where I don't have to worry about bills. Nice car or two, and that's beautiful, right? I love that for you. Your holy shit life could be, I want to make 20 grand a month or whatever it might be, have a yacht, have a mansion, I don't know. It doesn't matter. All that matters is what matters to you, right? What is most important to you? What does your holy shit life look like? What's going to make you wake up someday and be like, wow, I did this? And you really feel it, right? You feel like I've done something that I never thought I could do. So journal about that and be detailed, and be really detailed about that. How do you look? How do you think? How do you act? What's your friend group look like, right? How much money do you make per month? What kind of house do you have? What kind of car do you drive? All that stuff. There's nothing wrong with being honest about it. If it's what you want, it's what you want. I won't get into mine, right? Because what I want is not important right now. I want you to focus on what you want. So question 1, what's your holy shit life? Sub-question to that, I want you to also journal and think about, why not me? It's a powerful question. Why not you? I don't have a reason why, and I'm sure you can maybe think of 1,000 reasons why, but this is part of your identity shifting, right? Because you're gonna go journal the life you want. You're gonna list the money you want to make, the car you want, the spouse you want, the family you want, all that stuff. But then those deep subconscious dark thoughts are gonna creep back in again. I'm not good enough. I'm not confident enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't want to work hard. Whatever, right? Recognize those thoughts, but then ask yourself again that question, why not me? People build their dream life all the time. Not everyone on the planet that's successful is just born into money. Kudos if you are. There's nothing wrong with that, but how many people in our history of the world have gone from nothing to something? I mean, I love using Arnold Schwarzenegger as an example. I read his autobiography a couple of times. He's a great example of that. Grew up in Austria, grew up poor, avoided going to the draft, right? Rode a bicycle miles into town to work out in a really podunk little gym with people, learned how to be a bodybuilder, eventually learned how to speak good English, became a world championship bodybuilder, moved over to America, became a championship bodybuilder, became an actor, then became the governor of California, and just he went from rags to riches. He can do it. Why can't you? Well, Mark, I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, yeah, but you're somebody. You're somebody with the same mindset. It's just you're letting your mindset tell you really shit stories that won't let you live your holy shit life. But why not you? There's no reason. There is none whatsoever. So, next question. Let's go through it. Okay? Let's write it down so you guys can write it down. Look at my notes here. Question is, what do you not want? Right? I know my handwriting is great. Question number 2, what do you not want in life? I.e., what's your hell? Put that on there too. Okay? Think about that. what does hell look like for you? Outside of fire and brimstone and some dude with fucking horns, right? Excuse my language. Outside of that, what does your personal hell look like? Okay? I can tell you mine. Mine's not achieving my life, the dream I want, right? That's my personal hell. It's going to be, if I were to stick in this apartment the rest of my life, if I kept the same exact mindset, if I made the same amount of money, if I never went for the things I'm truly passionate about, that's my personal hell, right? It's not achieving my goals, not achieving the things that I set forth to do every single day. And I'll tell you, I lived my personal hell last year for a couple of months where I felt so stagnant and I was doing nothing, right? Even into this year. Looking back at it, I became so complacent with myself and I built my own personal hell without even knowing it, right? Until finally just things started adding up and just clicking where I'm like, no, I'm done with this. Can't keep happening. Enough is enough, right? And sometimes it takes you to get to that point where just enough is enough and you realize, shit, I built my own personal hell without even knowing it. But what's yours, right? So, question 2, what do you not want in life, right? So first question, what is your holy shit life? Number 2 to journal and think about is, what do you not want? Again, i.e., again, for you to think about, I don't want a life where I haven't put all my effort into achieving the dream life I want. I don't want to not pursue my goals. I don't want to not be successful with my life. I don't want to think of a life where I'm not achieving what I want to achieve. Right? I don't want X life. Okay? Think about that. Third question. And third thing to think about more so. Let's write it down so you can write it down. It's not so much a question, this is more of a tactic. Something to do. So third thing, we'll call it chunking and reframing. Chunking / reframing, right? What the hell does that mean, Marcus? Well, let's talk about it. So, chunking. Use an example of setting a goal. I want to make $10,000 a month. Okay, let's say that's your goal. I want to make $10K a month, extra on top of what I'm already doing on the side, right? So, obviously, it won't necessarily happen overnight, right? It's gonna take steps to get there, right? Maybe month 1's $100. Month 2, it's $500. Month 3, it's $1,000. Month 4, it's $1,200, right? There's all these steps to getting to that eventual goal of making 10 grand extra a month. Which you dig down deeper, why do I want that? Well, it's because I want to be financially free, right? I want to support my future family. I want to pay off my debt, right? I want to do X, Y, and Z thing. It's not so much about the number of 10K a month. It's about what that brings me as far as peace of life and living a life of financial freedom, right? So, which I just gave you an insight to one of my goals. So there you have it. I don't know what yours is, right? I don't know what yours is. It doesn't matter. All what is important to you is important to you, right? But point is you have a goal, right? You have an idea, right? Again, you've developed a different identity, right? Which is going to lead you to tell yourself, because you've told yourself different stories, lead yourself to different actions, which will lead you to a different outcome, right? But when you figure out what that outcome is, right, you start putting actions toward it, right? You can't forget to remember what happens along the way to get there. I.e., you go from your 1.0 version of yourself to your 2.0 version of yourself. But in the middle, there's all this stuff that's going to happen. There's all this stuff that you might have to readjust your plan as time goes. Again, you're not just going to go from your 1.0 version to 2.0 overnight. There's going to be this really long journey to get there, right? Huge journey. So when it comes to building when it comes to your action steps or your goals along the way, don't just set one large goal, okay? Don't just say, I'm making 10K a month, or I'm losing 100 pounds, or I'm gonna become a lawyer, a doctor, airline transport pilot, right? In between that time, there has to be goals. And let's actually use that ATP, airline transport pilot, right? Because that's what I'm most familiar with. Let's say you want to go from 0 to Delta captain, okay? That's a great goal down there, but in between then you have to go from zero. Stage 1, check. Private pilot. Stage 2, stage 3, end of course, check ride. Instrument, stage 1, 2, 3, end of course, check ride. Commercial, stage 1, 2, 3, end of course, check ride, right? You get my drift, but you have all of these little mini goals in between your large goal, eventually becoming an airline transport pilot, right? So, and that's like that's that chunking idea, right? That's reframing that ideal self down the road, and that's recognizing all the little things that you do in between the time to get there, and making sure that you pay yourself some homage. I don't want to use that word. Let's use a different one. Give yourself some credit. Let's keep it easy, right? I'm not that smart. So give yourself some credit along the way. Every time you achieve those goals, you're getting one step closer to getting ultimately where you want to be, right? And you did that by initially changing your identity, right? You made a shift in identity. You put forth different actions, and you had this outcome of where you want to go down the road. So, I don't think I have any more notes, do I? No, I don't think so. I'll have some more next time. So, point is, 3 questions to ask, right? We first talked about, and I'll put it up here because there's better drawings. Over here, let's look at identity-based goals, right? You're going from your identity in the core, working outward, right? Identity, you have your actions, stories you tell yourself, leads to your outcomes, right? So instead of going from outcomes to your ID, go from your identity to the outcomes. Focus on who you are as a person first. Get that figured out first. So again, Atomic Habits, James Clear, fantastic book. Highly recommend it. It's ungodly beneficial. That reminds me, I'll tell you a story really quick too about ID stuff and goal setting. Secondly, that we talked about tonight are these 3 things, right? Question 1. What's your holy shit life look like? What's your holy shit you look like? What is it? Journal it, write it down, be specific, right? What do you not want? What's your personal hell look like? What does your hell look like if you don't achieve your dream life? How's it going to look? How's it going to feel? Be specific, right? Thumbs up. It's going to help keep you motivated. And lastly, chunking and reframing. Give yourself credit as you go on a journey. Every time you achieve something, give yourself credit. Every time you achieve something, you're going to achieve a new identity. You're going to get more positive. You're going to get more confident. And it's going to keep pushing you closer to where you want to be. So, the story I want to say is out of the Atomic Habits, and this is just a great example of an ID. There's 2 people, right? 2 smokers who want to quit smoking. How they identify themselves is a great dictator of who's going to quit. Not only just quit, but stay quit or stay smoke-free, if you will. I was going to say stay sober, but that's more drinking, right? The point is do you identify as a smoker, right? How do you identify yourself? You know, someone asks, hey, do you want a cigarette? You say, no, I'm trying to quit smoking. That's no, I'm trying to quit smoking identifies you internally as a smoker, as an addict. Versus someone says, hey, do you want a cigarette? You say, no, I'm good, thank you. You don't say anything about trying to quit smoking. You just say, no, I'm good, thank you. I don't need a cigarette. Versus the other person says, no, I'm trying to quit. No, I don't want a cigarette. I'm trying to quit smoking, whatever it might be. But the point is you reframing that thought. You're reframing your idea of who you are. It's like when I think of, when I try to quit chewing, I am trying to quit chewing, right? Constantly. For the longest time, my story is I'm an addict, right? I'm an addictive personality. I always told myself that. Someone asked, hey, Mark, do you want to chew? Like, no, I'm trying to quit chewing. But ever since I started to reframe my idea of who I am as a person, it's helped me immensely not identify myself as an addict, not identify myself as a person who wants to chew all the time. But because of that, I've been able to make a lot of progress with it, right? Because I don't identify anymore as a person who, and this is a deep inner thought of mine, right? I was thinking throughout my life that, you know what, Mark, I need to keep failing so I can help other people not make my same mistakes. Well, no. I got to reframe that to where I'm going to build the dream life I want so I can help others do the same thing. And that is reframing your ID. Okay? So, hope this video was helpful as always. My book, right up there, How to Unf Your Life by a Flying Health Coach. Again, that's going to be published next Sunday, a week from today. So look out, that'll be coming out. Again, it's a workbook. It's something to help people out with their mindset and give you some tips and tricks. There's a workout program in there. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't know why I still do this. It's always weird to me. Like and subscribe up in that corner. And then finally, as I always end with, please feel free to shoot me an email, flyinghealthcoach@gmail.com. Let's put it up there this time, shall we? flyinghealthcoach@gmail.com. I'm here for one-on-one coaching. I'm here just if you needed a good listening ear. So, anyway, hope the video was helpful. I know it was 30 minutes. I'm doing much longer videos these days because I feel like a lot more to talk about with this shadow work and identity shifting. So, have a great rest of the weekend, guys. Have a great week. Hope it goes well. And we'll catch you next week with some hopefully new content. Peace. And cheers, folks. So weird.